Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my 36-week pregnancy update, and I think this is going to be the last one because we are definitely going to be having a baby by next week. So by the time I turn 37, we're going to be doing the C-section, so I'm probably not going to make any other pregnancy updates after this. I feel like a lot has happened since the last update, but it hasn't really changed a lot. It's just been a lot to deal with and a lot of going into appointments and labor and delivery and things like that. But it hasn't really changed what our game plan is. So when I'm filming this, I am 36 weeks and 2 days, which is longer than I made it with my son. My son was born at exactly 36 weeks. My daughter was born at 37 weeks and 2 days. I probably won't make it that long, but I am excited to make it past the 36-week mark. The big thing that happened this week was on Tuesday. I had an NST scheduled. I didn't have an appointment with a doctor, but I was just going to go in and do my routine NST. I knew I had seen some high blood pressure numbers at home, and even when I went to Publix, I got a pretty high number there. So I was just kind of thinking, I'm gonna end up at labor and delivery because when I go into the office, it's always a lot higher than even what kind of my baseline is because of anxiety. And so I figured they're probably gonna send me over there anyway. I'm not meeting with a doctor today. And I also hadn't done blood work in like a week. So I thought, why don't I just go to labor and delivery and just not do the NST and save myself some time, which in the moment, it sounded like a good idea. But when I got there, my numbers were really high because I was super anxious. And if I would have gone to the NST first, my numbers would have been high there, but then by the time I got to labor and delivery, they would have been lower, and that might have made the situation a little bit better. But they saw my high numbers, they did blood work, they looked at the protein in my urine. That's definitely going up a little bit, but we kind of expect that at that point because it's already past the preeclampsia numbers, so that doesn't really change anything. But my blood work all looked really good, which was really exciting, and that makes me feel a lot better. That was definitely my biggest concern going in, but because my first 3 or 4 blood pressure numbers were pretty high, they said at this point, let's just keep you for 24 hours. Which sucks. It sucks to have to stay overnight in labor and delivery. But I honestly kind of wanted to see what my numbers are when I'm there a longer term, because typically I'm there for just a couple hours. They're super high, they drop super low, and then I'm just kind of confused and I leave. So I wanted to see what is more of a long-term actual picture of what my blood pressure is just all day, all night. And it was really interesting because it did drop pretty low, almost to like a normal person's blood pressure, and then it came back up slowly. So I'm wondering if after that spike, my body kind of dips and then it will come back up to what our baseline is, which is kind of high. It's definitely in that mild preeclampsia range. So it did come back up, and it was around 135 or 140 over 90 for a lot of the time I was there. Those numbers aren't super alarming, and I am on Procardia now. So I was taking a different blood pressure medication I talked about last week that was not agreeing with me. I just felt really shaky and anxious and had a really bad headache. So I started taking Procardia. It was last Friday, so a week ago. I've been taking that, just 30 milligrams, I think it is, once a day. And I think it's helping definitely at least my top blood pressure number. I think the bottom number is still pretty high consistently, but I've read that it mostly just affects that top number, but it seems to be working. It seems to be keeping me around that 135, 140 point, whereas before I was taking it, I was starting to creep up a little bit higher than that, and that was making me nervous. So I'm still taking that every day, and I do think it's helping, and I do think my body is handling it pretty well. So that is good, and I can keep taking that for the next week or so through the whole C-section process, and then I'm hoping that we can get me off of that pretty quickly after I have the baby. But I also want to be really careful because with my daughter, I had postpartum preeclampsia, and I don't want to miss the signs of that. I don't want to come off my medication and then have to come back into the hospital, because that's what I did with Julie. I had to be readmitted for 24 hours and go on magnesium. Don't want to have to do that. So if I have to take it for a week or two after to just make sure I don't have to be readmitted, then I would definitely do that. But when I was admitted to labor and delivery for 24 hours, my time ended on Wednesday morning. They looked at everything and they said, I think you're good. Your blood pressure is definitely at a reasonable level. It is a little bit high, but that is the mild preeclampsia level, and it's not really going into the like severe preeclampsia level, so we don't need to get a baby out right now. Now I'm past the 36-week mark, which means it's not an automatic NICU admittance for the baby, which I'm so excited about. So that's good news, but they said, I think you can make it to 37 looking at your numbers. So that is still the plan, and as of now, that's like 5 days away from now. So hoping that we can do that. And I've been checking my blood pressure at home, and it's still kind of staying around where it has been. So I'm really hopeful that we can do that. We have the C-section scheduled for Wednesday, the day I turn 37 weeks at 4 p.m., which it sucks that it's later in the day because you do have to fast for a long time before a C-section. So I probably will like eat breakfast and then not eat for the rest of the day, which is going to be rough. But I'm excited that we at least have a spot on the schedule, and we are pretty sure that's going to be the day unless they need to bump us to the next morning. But hopefully it will be that day, which is the 8th of February. I do have a doctor's appointment later today, and I'm a little nervous about that because it just, every time I go in, there's a lot of drama and a lot of talk about sending me over to labor and delivery and holding me there. But I'm hoping we can just take my blood pressure at the end of the appointment, because I'm going to be meeting with a doctor today and talking to them for a while. I'm hoping if we take the blood pressure a couple times throughout and then like at the end, they will see that it's spiking at the beginning and then it's going down to my like normal level by the end of the appointment, and then I can just go home and we can be done. This will be my last doctor's appointment of this pregnancy. So I'm hoping today is pretty straightforward because we know my history and we know what to expect, and I don't think I'm really deviating too much from what we've seen the past couple appointments. I did want to mention my weight gain because I want to remember, I think at this point I'm around 25 pounds gained. That is less than I gained with my son. My son, I think I was around 40 pounds at this 36-week mark because I had so much more swelling. My legs, like from the knee down, were super swollen, and that's where like all of that weight was. My legs are not swelling much this pregnancy because I've been doing a good job of keeping them up and resting. I see a lot of swelling in my hands and my face in the morning. So the first whole half of the day, I feel like I'm pretty swollen. My hands and my face, it's pretty noticeable. And then towards the evening time, that all kind of goes away. I get a little bit of swelling in my legs, but it's not bad. So it's definitely been a lot better than with my son. I might have a little bit more swelling than I did with my daughter. I feel like I've gained a little bit more weight than with that pregnancy, but it's been pretty comparable, I think, to the pregnancy with Julie. It's funny because I have so many complications and things that I'm worried about with my pregnancies, but when you really think about like, am I in pain? Am I uncomfortable? Is anything else going wrong? It really isn't. I don't have a lot of those symptoms that people struggle with this late in pregnancy. I don't have any heartburn. I don't have really trouble sleeping. I feel like I sleep really well for a pregnant person at 36 weeks. I've been putting my magnesium lotion on my legs every night, and I feel like that really helps, having lots of pillows with me when I'm sleeping. So I'm still sleeping pretty well. I have been having a little bit of like cramping and just pressure in my stomach and a lot of pain, like my pelvic floor area when I'm walking a lot, but it hasn't been too bad, and if I just take breaks, then I'm doing pretty good. It is funny though, when they put me on an NST, I think when I was at labor and delivery, they said I was having like little mini contractions that I'm not really feeling, but I just have had a lot of pressure and just a lot of movement. The baby is getting bigger, so I'm definitely feeling all of that. I've never really felt like real contractions, I don't think, in any of my pregnancies because I have the babies early. So kind of interesting that my body is starting to progress and do the things that it needs to do naturally, which is cool because I've never experienced that, and I always kind of wonder, like, does my body even know how to do that? But apparently it's starting to get there, and if we had a few more weeks, I might start to feel some real contractions, but I never really make it past the 37-week mark. My belly doesn't get super huge, I feel like. I don't usually get any stretch marks, which is, great, but it's also a part of pregnancy I feel like I'm kind of missing out on. But I will do a bump shot for you guys in a minute because this is, about as big as I'm gonna get this pregnancy, which is crazy. I will definitely post on my community tab probably the next day after we have the baby, since we're going to be probably having her like later in the evening. But I will definitely share an update with you guys when she's here and she's safe and healthy and everything. I think that's everything I have for this 36-week update, my last pregnancy update with baby number 3. I might do some videos postpartum or just like a baby update, maybe a birth story with how the C-section went and everything like that. I like to have that in a video too, just so I can kind of remember all of the details, because you forget so quickly how the actual day goes and everything. So I probably will make a few videos like that. All right, let's get to a quick bump shot.